So thank you guys so much for being here. We're here with the Greater Johnstown Camera Club. We're here talking about their exhibit, a lot of the things that they do in the Camera Club, their experiences in Camera Club. And we're going to start over here with the president of Camera Club, of the Greater Johnstown Camera Club, Monique. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions. All of you are going to go right down the line. And we're going to start with, what is your name? What kind of photographer are you? Either, beginner or professional photographer. How long have you been doing photography? And how long have you been a member of the Greater Johnstown Camera Club? So, Monique.
My name is Monique Ridet. I am originally French, actually still French. And I am, I would say, intermediate photographer, not totally advanced. I'm technically challenged. But I have been doing photography since I was a young teenager. So, very much more seriously in the past 20 years, I would say. And I have been a member of this club for the past 7 or 8 years. And I used to come to the meetings with a friend from the Laurel Highland Photo Club in Somerset. So this is basically my background.
All right, and down the line.
My name is Ron Dingman. I've been with the Camera Club for about 7 years. I consider myself an intermediate photographer. There is always more to learn. And I tend to like to shoot landscapes and yeah, I guess that's about it.
All right.
My name is Stokes Clarke. I've been a member of the club for about 10 years. As long as I've been doing it, I guess I should be an advanced photographer because I've been taking pictures for about 70 years. I started as a young lad and have been interested in it since then. And I've been a member of this club for about 10 years. And I found the club, like Monique and Ron too, from we were members of Laurel Highlands, and several of us started coming to Johnstown.
All right.
I'm Ron Bruner, and I guess I would kind of like Stokes fall somewhere between intermediate and advanced. I've had a camera since I was probably 10 years old. The last 15, 20 years, I've been more serious about learning the finer points of photography, and a member of the club here for probably 8 to 10 years, something like that.
Wonderful. All right, so we kind of have like a mix-up of people being here for a while, intermediate, more advanced, so that's wonderful. So let's see here. I'm going to ask Monique. We're going to start with Monique. How did you find out about the Greater Johnstown Camera Club? I know we kind of answered it a little bit, but we'll still go down the line. So we'll start with Monique.
Yes, I started coming to meetings with a friend of ours from the Laurel Island Club, and I liked the format and what was done here, the programming and the activities in general. So I decided to stick and become a member myself.
Wonderful. And Ryan?
I found out about the Camera Club probably through the newsletter of the Arts Center, and was surprised to find out just how long it's been around. Yeah.
Stokes?
Yeah, I guess my first introduction to the club was a bus trip to Washington, D.C. that the Johnstown Club and the Laurel Highlands Club took together. And I think that was about 10 years ago. I'm not sure exactly. But
All right. And Ron?
Yeah, I was introduced to the club by another member of the Laurel Highlands Club who was a member here and coming here. So.
All right. So some Laurel Highlands Club here.
The clubs in one area, the people tend to be members of several clubs. The Bedford club, the Laurel Island Club, Johnstown, so we tend to be members of,
Just kind of
you know,
moving
of
around.
several- Yes.
I
yes.
gotcha. Alrighty, so next question here is, what has your experience been like with the club this far? We're gonna start with Monique.
My experience has been excellent. That's why I have decided to stay in that club. Because of the programming of the activities, the fellowship, um, everything was very good. And I also, you know, was willing to take on responsibilities as president to continue doing good work and apply my vision for, because clubs tend to, they evolve, they need to evolve with the change of circumstances. So this club has existed for already 85 years.
Oh, wow.
But over 85 years, imagine what has changed in the world. So we need to evolve with times, and it's important to have new leadership regularly. So these people can apply new vision, do new things, and keep the club alive and thriving. That was my goal.
Absolutely. All right, so we're gonna go with Ryan.
So my experience with the club has been great. It is, there are just, everybody's friendly. I've been really impressed by some of the work I've seen. There's some great work on the walls here behind us. And I've learned a lot of things that either I didn't know about or never had, didn't know how to do, or never thought to try it. So we kind of we're sort of challenged to try new things and just to really improve our photography. So it's been great for me.
Wonderful. All right, so Stokes.
And it's been great for me too. I think one of the real benefits of a club like this, you get to interact regularly with lots of other photographers, and it's kind of inspirational and it keeps you motivated. And I'm sure I wouldn't be as involved as without the club. So I think that's a huge benefit for all of us. And we are grateful for all those people who have kept this club going for so long.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, and Ron?
The programs have been very informational. The members are friendly, and it's always enjoyable to undertake things that with people who share your interests. So,
Absolutely. All right, so starting over here with Monique again. What is your favorite subject to shoot?
I have a lot of subjects I like to shoot, but I think, I like landscape, I like wildlife, even though I'm not good at it. I like night shooting, light painting, but I have a special fondness for portrait, because portrait allows you to capture the intimate personality of a person if you do it right. So I really like a portrait, and I like the interaction with the subject, whether it's a model or some friend or somebody else. You can create a little link with that person, and then capture the essence of them.
All right, and Ryan?
Well, like Monique, I've dabbled in a bunch of different forms. I'm probably least comfortable with portraits. I find them to be very challenging, getting the right expression. I think I'm not really quite comfortable with that, positioning people and that sort of thing. So I kind of understand the technique of it, the lighting of it, but yeah, just probably the least comfortable. I've also messed around with night photos, stars and the moon, solar eclipse a few years back. Lots of different things, but I think I tend to, the landscape photos that I shoot are the ones that I tend to be most happy with.
All right, and Stokes?
I guess for many years I was a nature photographer only. That was the only thing that I took family pictures on trips and things like that. But the natural world was the thing that appealed to me most. And my goal for many years has been to contribute photos to conservation organizations and things like that to try to help bring awareness of the natural world around us and appreciation. Through my pictures. I do other things too. I take sports photography and things like that, but nature photography has always been my first choice.
And Ron?
Yeah, scenic landscapes are my favorite, like Ryan. Portrait photography is pretty far down my list, but I dabble in other areas as opportunities present themselves.
All right, so moving on to our next question, starting here with Monique. Has the Camera Club helped you progress as a photographer, and if so, how?
It has helped greatly, this club and other clubs, because I am also a member of a club in Maryland and another one in Pennsylvania, a professional one. So I'm not at that level, way far from it, but I think it challenges you to get beyond what you're comfortable with, get to think differently and to also learn from all the other members, because everyone has a different vision. Everyone has a different approach to photography, different skill levels. So you learn so much from other photographers, and always the club also forces you to get beyond, what you, as I said before, what you're comfortable with. Challenge yourself all the time.
Yeah, and we kind of see that here too with you being more into the portrait and, these guys here not exactly being, the most comfortable with it. So I can definitely see how that would help them. They can help you with the landscapes, the nature, you can help them with the portraits. So we see that kind of cohesive relationship happening throughout the Camera Club, which is
And
amazing.
we exchange information. That's what the club is about. When we have meetings and we can exchange information about techniques and about equipment and what our vision is, also our expression as artists.
Absolutely. All right, so Ryan, same question.
Yeah, I think Monique covered most everything, but it definitely has helped me progress. I've learned some techniques in the, at every meeting we have some kind of presentation, and I've learned some new techniques that I've then gone out and tried, and it's just, also especially when we have things like this, I see similar photos that I've tried, but maybe somebody else uses a different technique, different settings on the camera, and they get a different result. And so it's been good to kind of push me to try different things and progress.
Absolutely. All right, and Stokes?
Of course, as the others have said, the interaction with other members, you always learn new things. And one thing that helped me a lot, I've done a couple of little programs, and that really solidifies how well you know a subject if you're suddenly asked to teach something about it. So, you learn a lot that way, and, yeah, the contests have been motivating for me too. When you know people are gonna scrutinize your work carefully, I tend to spend more time trying to get things right.
And two, it's really nice to see the openness, the willingness to learn. You know, you don't come in here thinking you know it all. It's a very nice area to just get your thoughts out. And I think that's amazing too, that none of you are just like, I know what I'm doing. You're willing to learn and help each other. So that's really great. And then we're going to end this question here with Ron.
Well, as Stokes said, contests and exhibits like we're sitting here in this room with, help me appreciate how other people approach different types of photography styles. And I find it very helpful.
Too, you could be, you know, photographing the same subject and get a completely different outcome based on, you know, what somebody
Absolutely.
sees. Exactly.
All the time.
Yeah.
It's like a, a painter.
It's an art
Paint
form.
the
It
exact
is. It really
same
is.
landscape, but it will come out differently,
Yeah.
Yeah, the monthly themes that the club has, it's always interesting to see how people interpret
Yes.
those particular words for the theme. You can see a wide range of approaches.
But one time, not in this club, but I had a photo, the theme was humorous. And because I am French, I interpret that in a certain way. And when I put my photo there, nobody found it funny.
Oh my gosh.
I was the only one who found it funny. And I thought, why on earth people find that not funny? And they had photos that I found not funny. So it's very interesting to see not only between cultures, of course, you have differences, but between people, how we perceive things is so important, and it's so important to try to translate that in our work.
Too, you said humorous. I thought of the bone, like the humorous bone. So I would have just had a picture of a bone just slapped up there and people would have been like, what? So yes, funny bone, exactly. All right, so moving on to the next question here. Starting with Monique. What would you say to aspiring photographers?
Okay, it's fairly simple. I would tell them, take things step by step to start. It's like swimming. You don't want to go into the Olympics before you know how to swim. So just take things step by step. Then, second thing, never stop learning. Always learn. And get inspiration from others without copying them, and get inspiration from other art forms, because that is a great source of inspiration, but it's from a different medium. Like you can go to graphic artists or painters or sculptures or whatever other medium you can inspire yourself from. And that is very important. And then, as I said, inspire yourself from others, but don't copy, don't imitate, or create your own vision. And most importantly, persevere.
All right, so Ryan, same question.
So I would say, don't worry about that you don't have the right equipment, or that you need to have professional cameras and lenses and expensive gear to take photos. I think it's important to learn how to use what you have. So take it you know, any camera has an auto mode, and then there's all kinds of different manual modes and semi-automated modes, and learn how to use those, learn what the basics mean, how a shutter speed affects, what that means, the shutter speed, aperture, ISO, and how those affect the picture, and then just experiment with it. And also, you know, when you take a photo that doesn't turn out, and I do that all the time, look at what the settings were on that picture and try to find out, well, why didn't this work? Was it, you know, was it too dark and I should have had the camera on a tripod and I was doing handheld, or was my, maybe I was taking pictures of you know, kids playing soccer, and they got blurry because they were moving because my shutter speed was too slow. So I think once you understand what those basic things do, then you can try to figure out, you know, how you can make your pictures better.
And two, I really like how you put that. It's kind of working in reverse. Instead of trying to figure out how to take the right photo, you work backwards and say, you know, I took this photo and it didn't turn out how I liked. And
Oh,
you go
yeah.
from what did I do wrong and
Yeah.
fixing it from what can I do perfect the first time.
Yeah,
That's
failure is a
amazing.
good
Yeah.
teacher. You have to, if you can learn from your mistakes, then you don't repeat them as often.
Absolutely.
Many opportunities there.
Yeah. All right. Stokes?
To Ryan's point, I saw a cute little cartoon the other day. There were two windows, and there was a sign above one window that said, acquire new equipment. And there was a long line in front of that one. And then the sign over here said, learn to use the equipment you have, and there was nobody in that one.
Yeah, yeah.
And that I feel like is for a lot of art forms, you know, that was one of the things that I was really hoping for this exhibit, is that people, maybe this is just me, but a lot of times you think of art, it's, you know, the paintings, the sculptures, that kind of thing. But photography is a great art form that I think a lot of people, especially around the community, should get involved in. And I'm really hoping that this exhibit inspires them to do that. Like you said, even if you have just a phone, you know, that's what most people start with. Most people nowadays, you know, they have the phone, and, you know, they're pretty, I think they made them a lot nicer so that they can do all that stuff for you, you know. But yeah, same with any art form, you know, if you don't have the most expensive, you know, like colored pencils or paints or anything like that, you work with what you have. So that's really amazing to hear that, you know, anybody can just take this and make it something that they do for the rest of their life. So that's really great.
People should go beyond selfies and learn how to see, because you know you just have a glance at something, click click, and that's it. You know, but you have to learn to see, and even with a cell phone you can do that too.
Absolutely. And Stokes, I think we were still on you for your, what would you say to aspiring art photographers?
One thing that has changed immensely is the digital equipment, digital photography, because it used to be, you took a picture, maybe a slide, you set it away, and a week later you get your slides back and you can have a look at them. Now you get instant feedback, number one. Number two, you can take 1,000 pictures with a digital camera and it doesn't cost you anything. Well, that was not the case with film. And another thing is there's so much information that's right at your fingertips on YouTube and the internet and things like that. So it's much easier now to progress, I think, as a photographer, because you have such access to information and such immediate feedback from what you take. You take a picture and you say, well, I don't like that. You take another one. You know?
And two, like, what would you think, and this question is really for anyone, but is there a, I guess, defining line between maybe going to a photographer and getting that experience with them, just talking it out, as opposed to going on the computer? Is there, you know, maybe more connection in that? Is there, you know, something that you like better about going to somebody and talking to them? Or do you prefer going to the internet and, you know, finding out what to do? Yeah, Ryan, I see you're getting ready.
Well, I think when you're learning something, you may not know what questions to ask. So
What to type in, what to search,
yeah.
exactly.
So for ex- uh, for example, I helped another member. I think the day we were setting up this room, and he had changed the autofocus setting on his camera, and it wasn't working the way it had worked before. And so he wasn't really sure what happened, but he was describing it to me and said, "Oh yeah, okay, I know what that is," and we found where that was on his camera. So I think that's something that if you don't know what the question to ask, sometimes it's hard to ask Google for the answer.
Absolutely.
And the interaction also with one-to-one or in
Sure.
a group, you know, when it's also so much more fulfilling. It's like, you know, teaching children via teaching them online and having a teacher that's completely different. You know, it's important to have a rapport, you know, being able to talk to someone, having the back and forth, rather than being in your bubble, you know, somewhere. And as Ryan says, sometimes you don't know what question to ask, you know, so you need someone there to help you.
All right. What would you say to aspiring photographers, Ron? I apologize.
I'm
Oh
sure
my
you have
gosh.
something important to say to them.
I just keep going on and on and on. You got to stop me.
Ditto to all that has been said
Yeah.
already.
No, but you must
But,
have your own idea.
A couple of points. One is learn to shoot in RAW, and also how to process photos from RAW to JPEG. You can often salvage a badly exposed picture more readily in RAW through Photoshop or one of the other post-processing. But and the point about taking advantage, there's so much out there on YouTube. If you go look, of course, you have to know what you're looking for. But yeah.
But see, that would be a useful tool then for, you know, photographers who have started their journey then too, you know, and whenever you first start off, you go to the experts and you see, and then you can gradually move on and start kind of searching and maybe even discovering new stuff that you don't even know. So I think that's amazing. All right, so apologize for that. And our last question here. Would you like to add anything else about your experience or about photography in general? And we'll start over here with Monique.
Yes, I just want to say talking about clubs, it's important that clubs be able to continue. With COVID has been a very harsh test for a lot of clubs, not only photography, a lot of clubs, because they lose members, they lose finances, they lose interest. Some people have stayed away because of the pandemic, but isolation has shown during that period that, you know, human beings are gregarious creatures. Human beings are not solitary creatures. So we need to get together, have fellowship, and continue learning and share our experiences and our dreams also, you know, in whatever medium we are. So the activities are also important, because first learning that you do in a club, you have the programs, the outings, which are really fun to do, you know, doing some portrait shoot somewhere or going together to a museum or something. And that's part of the learning process, sharing information, the exhibitions, the contest, the fellowship, but also the participation in community activities. Some clubs do more than others. But this one also does, twice a year, they do the highway cleanup. So people from this club participate in that twice a year. And some other clubs have scholarships. When they have enough money, they sponsor students who are into that kind of study. So it's very important to keep clubs going and to stimulate interest in the clubs. That's and of course photography is extremely important. It's all over the place now, but it's very, very important because you capture one moment that will never come back. Whether it's your family pictures or a landscape, because the lighting is different, the season is different, it will never be the same. So, and documentary, that's, so there should be more, a lot more interest in serious photography. Yeah.
All right, Ryan?
Just about photography in general, I think it can be very rewarding. It can be very frustrating at times. Patience is important. You can have this idea in your head of how something's going to turn out, and then you go there and it just doesn't happen, maybe because of the lighting isn't right, or any number of reasons. But then there have been other times when I really wished I had my camera, because I see something amazing, and I'll stop and look at it and, wow, this would make a great picture, and I don't have that, so
I have missed a lot of those.
yeah.
I'd say it turns into a great moment though, too, just to
Yeah.
experience,
So
yeah.
patience is important.
All right, Stokes?
I agree with that. I think lots of times, if you're prepared, you've learned to use the equipment you have fairly well, and you have decent equipment. When the opportunity comes along, you're able to capture it. I've had so many cases where I was so glad that I had my equipment and had the opportunity, and that, like Monique says, something that'll never happen again, maybe, It's a once in a lifetime experience. And the other thing is too, I really like the idea of sharing what I see through photography with other people who might appreciate it, who might not have noticed a little detail in the landscape or in the forest or something like that, or might not have thought about things in a certain way. So each of us as an individual has something to offer, I think, in the vision you have, and being prepared and capturing it when the opportunity comes along is the gratifying part of it.
All right, and Ron?
Photography for me is my happy place, to use a term. If I have my camera strung around my neck and I'm out and about, I'm happy. I enjoy sharing photographs, as Stokes mentioned. In fact, my Facebook friends are probably getting tired of all the fall foliage pictures that I've been putting out.
No, never.
One a day for the last probably 10 days. But yeah, that's my happy place.
Great. All right. Well, that is the end of our questions for this portion. I want to thank you guys so much for, being here, answering these questions, taking time out of your days to, be here and make a video like this for those who are maybe even a little bit scared to start photography. They see this and they see very welcoming faces and people who are willing to help and listen and help them on their journey, just whether they're doing it for fun or professionally. So I thank you guys so much for being here. And there will be links in the description to, the Facebook page if you'd like. Anything like that you guys have to put in there will be in the description. And again, thank you guys so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
This picture was taken at the Asian Lantern Festival last year at the Pittsburgh Zoo. It was kind of a close-up. The full dragon looks like this, and it was probably maybe 30 feet long, 12, 15 feet high. And there are a lot of other lanterns throughout the zoo, probably 30 or 40 of them. This was one of my favorites. This picture was taken at the Pittsburgh Renaissance Festival last year. Isabella is the lady's name. She's a mime, and you may see that with her fingers she's showing a heart shape, symbol for love. She also has a pin on here that says, "I love to sign." Her performance, the title is Frozen in Stone. So, this is a water lily, obviously, taken at a photo club picnic at Monique's house a couple of years ago. I have eliminated through Photoshop processing some distracting leaves and so on, and there's a paint filter applied to it to give it that particular appearance. And finally, this was taken during the Hidden Valley Mountain Metric cycling event earlier this summer. I think one of the things that attracted me is the tree and the lone rider up here give a sense of scale to the picture. All of these were taken with a Sony A6300 camera, mirrorless camera, and they were processed in Photoshop. They're all 16 by 20 prints.
These first two here were, Monique was able to arrange a camera club outing to the machine room of the inclined plane while it's down for service, and they weren't working on it that day. So we were able to just go in there and explore, which was really amazing. It was so cool to see the old machinery. They had a lot of old tools laying around from the late 1800s. It was, yeah, really something. I ended up converting these to black and white, mostly because it was so hard to get the color right in there. There were lots of, we had bright sunlight coming in through the windows, which tends to have a bluish color. There was a mix of some incandescent. They had like the sodium vapor lights, the yellow ones that you see in parking lots or street lights sometimes. So the colors were just all over the place. So, but I liked it because it's just historic machinery. This one especially was taken using a technique called HDR, high dynamic range, and so it's a mixture of different exposures. It was really dark on this side of the wheel. This is the same drum here. This is the back side. This was really dark back there. It was hard to see your way without tripping over something. So I had a tripod, and I would say, I might have exposed this for 10 seconds or so, but I took a couple different pictures without moving the camera. I took pictures to expose for these highlights and pictures to expose for the dark, and then was able to combine that, so I was able to really get the detail. And I just kind of like the grittiness of the iron and the all the grease marks and everything. I just really was happy with the way that turned out. Let's see, moving on. So these two waterfalls here, this is at Watkins Glen State Park in the Finger Lakes region of New York. And there are a bunch of, there are all these stone walkways and stairs and bridges that were built in the 1930s after the Great Depression as part of the Civilian Conservation Corps. And it's really an amazing place to see, beautiful waterfalls. We happened to camp in the park, and so I got up around 6 a.m. and hiked down to the waterfalls to take these pictures because, boy, by about 8 o'clock, there were people kind of coming through, constantly, and it was just hard to get a picture without a person in it. But by 10, 11 o'clock, it was filled with hundreds of people. It was, but a really amazing place to see, and it's not that far away. These three here are far away. These are all in Hawaii. These two on the Big Island, and this one on Oahu. And we were there on the Big Island for about a week. Drove all over 700 miles, and it was just an amazing place to see. But it was almost kind of so overwhelming, so many things to see, and but this one in particular, this one was on Oahu, and just I was really happy with how the sky turned out, and I ended up using Photoshop to remove some people that were standing here. I think I had 3 people. There was a couple taking selfies, and like I waited there for a while, and it was they weren't going to move on, so I ended up photoshopping them out. But I was really happy with the way the sky turned out. And then these last 3 here were in Key West, and I was there for almost a week visiting family, and I woke up. I was up early, like 5:30, I think, and it was one of those things that the sunrises and sunsets can be really spectacular there, but so I was close to the beach. So the whole island is close to the beach. So I think I woke up at 5:30 or something, and I had a bicycle that I borrowed, and it was like 10 minutes to get down to the water, and just sat there and kind of waited for things to happen. And this one in particular was this was about 20 minutes before sunrise, and the sky got super colorful. And then this was later that morning. As I waited, the colors just changed completely. It gets kind of really dull, and then the colors just change tremendously. This one was kind of odd for Key West. It's a Portuguese man-of-war that was washed up on the beach, and that morning there happened to be dozens of them washed up on the beach, and I've never seen them in Key West before. Don't know why they were there. They're about. This one was a big one, maybe about 4 or 5 inches long, and I just kind of liked the way it was sort of backlit with the sun behind it, and got the reflection off this. So, definitely some techniques I've learned in the camera club, and that have helped, and I still look at these and I think, I could do things differently and get different results, but that's the way it goes.
I will start with this one. This is near my house. It's a conference center it's a beautiful place called White Sulphur Springs, and those are fall colors. They have a beautiful building that was the barn soon after it was built. Now it looks a little bit weathered, but so that's there is nothing much I can say more. I love the reflection and everything, the symmetry of it. This is an interesting historical place. It's in France, and it's a lake that is high in the mountains, And actually, all these colors, you would think, they have been worked on, but not at all. These are natural, they are exactly like that. The lake is green, everything is green, and in winter it gets very, very cold. So in the 19th century, they had a ice factory there. And you see the ruins of it right here. And to give you a sense of scale of the building, you see the little boat and the fisherman there. So that gives you a sense of scale of the place. It used to be a very, very active ice factory. They would collect or make ice there and ship it all over France. I mean, it was, so it's a really interesting, very interesting place. Of course, when you are there in person, you get a better sense of that, the atmosphere there, sort of a bit mysterious too, there is, I love that area. And this was taken in Lancaster recently. They had a balloon festival. And unfortunately, I could not get many balloons because the wind prevented them from flying. So I was able to capture one sharp enough and good enough, but they were supposed to, 40 of them were supposed to take off that day, and the wind really prevented all of them from flying, so only 5 flew away. This is a landscape not far from my house, and it's a really interesting area because for some reason, when there is some kind of weather event, you have fantastic skies and the landscape gets really, really bright, and for some reason it's that area in particular. And that field, I think it was a cornfield that had been cut. That was the fall. That cornfield was like shiny, shining in your eyes. And when I see a cornfield like that was so bright, it always reminds me of Van Gogh paintings, So I thought this, and the little red church right here, the blue sky with the clouds, I thought were making a great picture. This was taken at Longwood Gardens, and that was late in the day. That's one of the tropical lilies that they have in the ponds there. And Longwood Gardens is a magical place. I mean, they always have fabulous displays. So now I want to talk about these two ladies. We did with the club, we were able to have a photo shoot at the State Theater in Johnstown. And it's a historical place that is closed down now for renovation. It was built in 1926, and we were able to, someone in the club was able to contact the manager, and they gave us permission to have models and to do a shoot there. So this lady here is one of the 2 models we had, and actually she's the same as here. And again, we had very poor lighting in there. It was very, all kinds of, they had like projectors and ceiling light, and it was all over the place. So when I took the picture, after in Photoshop or one of the programs, I really desaturated quite a bit. It's not black and white, of course, because you still see the red lipstick there and her skin tone. But I wanted, my vision was to make a to make a 50s looking vinyl jacket. That's what I wanted. I had that in my mind. And as I said before, I am technically challenged. I'm not very good with Photoshop. I could have done that all in Photoshop, but I was not able to. So I used 4 different programs to do this, to do what I really wanted. So I used Photoshop, of course, and I used, I believe it or not, some graphics in Word. And when I was about to save my finished product, because the picture I made the mistake of including a TIFF file in there. So layers and layers and layers. So when I wanted to save in Word, I couldn't do it because there was too much for Word to save. So and every time I wanted to save, would not keep the work I had done for 1 or 2 days. So finally I saved in PDF, and it was able to do it. And so, and if you look here, you have the little label, the record label, RCA Victor, with his master's voice, you know. So I had a lot of fun doing that. You know, this is the kind of work I like to do. If I was better at Photoshop, I would do hundreds of different things. And here, it was easier. I used Photoshop for that. It was not too complicated. Just wanted to make a Vogue magazine cover. And, you know, because the lady, and with I wanted to have the you know, the wood, the work there, the architectural elements, and I thought the yellow on the walls complemented her dress, so that's what I played with. And so.
These 4 pictures across the top are obviously the 4 seasons at Falling Water, the same vantage point. And actually my daughter is a big Frank Lloyd Wright fan, and she encouraged me to take some pictures in the different seasons. And yeah, it's been gratifying, and it's been fun to do that. These other pictures on the bottom here, this is a lighthouse on the Oregon coast. Beautiful spot. I was actually quite a distance away on another outcropping into the ocean there when I took that picture. It's like with a 200 millimeter lens. But anyway, that's what that one is. This one is one of my favorites for a lot of reasons, because I mentioned earlier, you practice and you get decent equipment and you learn to use your equipment. And then when the opportunity comes along, you want to be able to capture it. Well, this to me was one of the perfect opportunities that I've had, because the water's perfectly still, the reflection is perfect. I was shooting this at 20 frames a second, so another probably a 1/10 of a second or less, that claw there will penetrate the water and the reflection will be gone. So I was able, and the sun was coming in. This was about 6:30 in the morning, and the light was perfect, and everything fell into place perfectly for that picture as far as from my point of view. This one was obviously a hairy woodpecker picking on a female grosbeak, and they actually had a little bit of a fight, and he drove her off. I don't know what the point was, but we call him a bully. I think that's what he was. And once again, I was happy that I was able to capture that circumstance. This is a bridge in Magnolia Gardens in Charleston, South Carolina. Another case where it's just a beautiful spot and a beautiful opportunity for a picture, and I was happy to have it.
Where is this? Where is this?
Magnolia Gardens in South Carolina, outside Charleston. And then this picture over here was from our garden, and the thing that appealed to me about that was this is columbine and lupin. And obviously, they're both pretty much identical colors. They're my two favorite wildflowers. And it was another case where the circumstances were good. The light was good on the flowers, and the background was dark enough and out of focus enough that it didn't interfere with the picture. That's always a goal for me, is to try to get a background that is doesn't compete with the picture. And the best way to do that is to get so that the picture is a distance in front of the background, so the background is completely out of focus, completely blurred, no competition with the subject.
So you
And,
use shallow depths of field?
I'm sorry?
You use shallow depths of field?
Yes, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Enough to capture what you want without the rest of it, sure. And a long lens, telephoto lens, tends to create that effect too. So-
How did you get this columbine to be face up? Because they always face down.
That's a good question. Don't know.
You were lucky
It was-
that day.
I may have tilted it back a little bit, I can't remember, but you're right, they do
They're
usually
always facing
face down, but, yeah. So, I think I might have tilted it a little bit or something like that, I don't recall, to tell you the truth.